If you were to ask any of the guilty parties who raped April Hawley, they would say, I don't know anything about what you're talking about. If you were to ask any of the guilty parties who raped Michelle Smith, they would say, I don't know anything about what you are talking about. If you were to ask the guilty parties who raped Kelly Miller, they would say, I don't know anything about what you are talking about. If you were to ask any of the guilty parties who raped Lee Trinh or had anything to do with her being raped, they'd say, I don't know anything about what you're talking about. If you were to ask any of the engineers who attempted to rape Han Wong at a post office in Austin, Texas, they'd say, I don't know nothing about what you're talking about. Right, Bill Bartol. If you were to ask any of the people who sacrificed Brett Finnerty, me, through hypnotism, faking deaths, and torture, none of the guilty parties will ever tell the truth because they don't want to go to jail for what they have done. This person is Troy Taylor. Now, Troy Taylor was upper, management type of engineer. He was underneath our manager, Robert Kaminsky. He was my boss, where I made an engineer at Alcatel. See, they had things going on that was kind of shady in the background. They weren't telling me, and they weren't telling other people. What I heard was that Lee Trinh was trying to find out who raped her at Alcatel. I believe it was Bill Hopper. I think a lot of people know who it is. They don't want to tell the truth because they'd go to jail because they conspired to make this stuff happen to me. But Troy Taylor, I heard he was walking her around trying to find stuff out. He was asking her questions. What this, and I heard he was the last person. He took her into a restaurant and he raped her in a restaurant. I heard that Troy Taylor from Alcatel is the last person that raped Lee Trinh. Just want you to know where he works, who he is. The other thing that I want to mention is when I was laid off, they said it was a telecom bust. There's no such thing as a telecom bust. There's not. But they told me there's a telecom bust. And, everybody's laying off. But see, when I went to Yada Networks, that's how they got me to go to Yada Networks. I go to Yada Networks and there's Scott. I don't know what his real name is. He goes to Scott Rothrock. It's Scott Odell. I don't know who he really is. But he changed his name multiple times. And he was supposed to be, our upper manager there too. He was our director of engineering. And I don't know where he is now, but this guy's at Nokia living it up, just thinking it goes away. What he did, it doesn't go away. Troy Taylor, I'm going to make sure you go to prison, not only for, raping Lee Trinh at Alcatel and setting me up, but the attempted murder that you placed upon me. One thing I want to mention about Yada Networks is that Alcatel funded them. Alcatel Networks, USA, funded Yada Networks. Now, to be clear on who I'm speaking about, this is Troy Taylor. This is Lee Trinh. And if Brett Finnerty would have harmed Lee Trinh, no possible way Lee Trinh would have spent time with me in Vietnam. She would have tried to have me arrested. Is somebody going to start telling the truth? Are you going to continue to prove that nobody in this city is worth trusting? Everybody's a liar, because that's what you're proving. Everyone in this city knows that anybody who's been prosecuted in the state of Oklahoma, Texas, anywhere where I've been at, where everybody just flat out lies to my face and walks around like a robot, you're proving you can't be trusted in a court of law as a witness or as a police officer or as a judge, because all you do is pretend you lie. Just remember that, guys. Liars go to a lake of fire. Hey, Big Head Jeff, I have a few questions for you. When I was introduced to Beth Kimbrough in the year 1989, I dated her until 1990 time frame. And one day, Beth Kimbrough, she kind of starts going crazy, and she says, and why did Beth Kimbrough tell me this? That's why I want to know. Why did she say this to me? She goes, you're not going to be dipping your head in buckets of ice water over me. I'm not Beth Rainbow. I kept asking her what she meant. And she said, Jeff Hunt said you're going to be dipping your head in buckets of ice water over me. What does she mean by that, Jeff Hunt? Because to me, that sounds just like something that comes out of, this little interview they have with Joe Rogan about Lackland, Air Force Base, the MK Ultra project. And I'm going to play these little samples for you, Jeff Hunt, but this kind of links you and Sean Finnerty and Lone Grove into me being hypnotized on Lackland Air Force Base.
Was Beth Rainbow I mean, I have all the testimony. There was actually a trial, a retrial, and sentencing. And every time it came up, it was really frustrating because he never testified. So it was either his wife or his mother who would talk about it. It was mostly his mother saying, well, all I knew was they wanted him to be involved in this 2-year study to try to relieve his migraines. He would have such horrible migraines, he would put his head in buckets of ice water. It raises huge questions about this was an experiment gone wrong, that he was part of one of these experiments at Lackland Air Force Base.
Now, Jeff Hunt, to be perfectly clear on who I'm speaking about, you are Jeff Hunt. I am Brett Finnerty. This person here is Beth Kimbrough. And you've known what you've done to me all this time, me and April, Shane. All these people have been hurt because you don't want to tell the truth, because now you've got a family. Why won't you tell the truth, Jeff Hunt? Because you were at the Daytona race where Dale Earnhardt Sr. faked his death. He got out of the race car, waved to the crowd, got in the ambulance on his own wheel, of his own 2 feet, and then drove away, and he was still alive. But then they announced later that he died on impact. You were there February 18th, 2001. And your cousin Greg Biffle is a NASCAR driver, so he knows the truth too.
I remember around the year 1989, I saw something like this on TV. And Tommy Duncan looked at me and goes, I know what you're thinking, Brad. It's not me. I know what you're thinking. I was like, but you just came back from Detroit. It was a police convention or something like that. He goes, I know what you're thinking, Brett. It's not me. But I heard someone came and talked to you too. I can't remember everything that happened because you guys know how to use hypnotism and stuff like that. But I remember that incident where you kept saying, I know what you're thinking, Brett. It's not me. I know what you're thinking. It's not me. Well, it kind of looks like, similar to you, but I remember somebody saying something like, you just happen to end up in the same bar with this guy, and all of a sudden this thing happened. So I don't know the truth to it, but I think someone wants to talk to you about that. Tommy Duncan is probably the same cop who came down here to ask you questions about it, around 1989.